Good morning, everyone. Welcome on the Dawn Safari. I greet you to the tune of lions calling to the deep south of where I'm sitting, some rustling in the bushes from what may or may not be an elephant, and it's not warm this morning. As you can see, I am struggling to move my lips in the cold. Brent has kindly lent me one glove, so I have one warm hand and 5 fingers that are in fact not functioning at all. That is a crested francolin heralding the dawn. So we have Scott on the back today. My name is James. Brent and Phil are on the other vehicle, freezing. And in the nice warm control room we have Eugene and the sultry tones of Nicky Austin driving things and making the big decisions. Remember that we love your contributions. Please send us your comments and your questions to the hashtag Safari Live or questions@WildEarthTV. Our plan this morning is we had the wild dogs last night. They're off in the north. Brent is up in that area, so he'll check for them. We've come to the deep south hoping to find some form of lion tracks perhaps. We have just heard them calling. I'm not sure if you would have picked them up or not, but they were calling probably well south of our boundary. They might be moving, they might be coming forward, so we might be lucky with them. Otherwise we're going to see what we can see. Just going to try and follow up on that rustling noise that was in the bushes just here, and we may come up with something. We may come up with nothing but cold air, but it is promising a very beautiful dawn. It's very crisp. Crisp is a euphemism for Baltically cold, but the sun is about to peep over the horizon, and so we're hoping for some warmth a bit later. It is a really beautiful morning. Here we go. Welcome to the morning game drive. Wherever you are in the world. And just to reiterate to you, you are on a live safari. That means that no one is editing. You are seeing this probably, I think there's a brief delay of about 9 seconds after we seeing it, which is not too bad. There's something moving in here. Buffalo. It seems to be a buffalo through there. We'll just go and have a quick look at him, see how he's enjoying the dawn. It's a 6 degrees Celsius here. For those living in the 19th century, that means it's about 46 degrees Fahrenheit. So it wasn't an elephant that I heard, but a buffalo. I was only off by about 4,200 kilograms. I don't know what sort of view we're going to get of these old boys as they lurk here in the bush. Maybe a little bit better through here. How's that, Scott? That's perfect. Okay. We'll just stop here briefly. I'll probably be doing quite a lot of stopping until the sun has warmed the air. He lost his horn, that old boy. So these are the buffaloes that are often found around Treehouse Dam, and they're obviously very happy to have made it through the night without the attentions of too many lions. It's quite an interesting relationship between size and cold. The larger you are, or the greater your surface area to body mass ratio. Now, I mean, for my brain to be thinking on that level at this kind of time of the morning is a testament to the power of the coffee I drank. But basically, the bigger you are, so the larger your surface area to body mass ratio is, the more easy you find it to maintain heat, but also the more difficult you find it to lose heat. So something like a buffalo or an elephant or a rhino will find it not too hard to stay warm. That's why the really big animals don't even have any fur. So they warm up, their physiologies warm up their bodies. But the opposite is true then when it gets very hot. They struggle to lose heat, which is why they spend a lot of time wallowing in the mud or throwing water on themselves, and why they don't have any fur. Now, if you think of a little mouse or a bushveld gerbil, that one of which is living in our kitchen at home. In fact, I think there are probably about 25 of them living in the kitchen at home. They really struggle with maintaining body heat. So they have a hugely fast metabolism that will build a lot of heat quickly when it's cold, and they'll rush around when it's cold. They also have to be in kind of warm nests with each other when it's cold. I'm just going to sneak a little bit forward there, Scott. There's one coming onto the road.
Okay.
And then when it's the other strategy for when it's cold, if you think of something like a bush baby, they go into a sort of torpor where they can actually allow the body temperature to drop. They can allow the temperature of the body to drop significantly below the sort of standard 37 degrees. And that saves a lot of energy. So if you're a little mouse or something like that, you're using a huge amount of energy to maintain your body temperature in the cold like this. But obviously very easy when it's hot for you to lose heat. These big old boys. I've parked Scott at an angle, so he's going to have to... There we go, he's alright. So you can see that the larger an animal gets, the more sparse its fur will be. Certainly in conditions where it's not cold, well, particularly cold. It obviously doesn't apply in the northern climes or higher latitudes where things like polar bears and Kodiak bears have to survive in extremely cold conditions. You can see that buffalo there eating some extremely dry grass. And buffalo are very lucky in that they have the ability to consume the driest, most moribund material. You know, what you and I might refer to as straw, as long as they have sufficient water for their guts to process it. Very efficient ruminant digestive systems they have. Again, it always amazes me the strength of the tongues that animals have out here. That if you watch that buffalo, he's wrapping his tongue around the leaves and then pulling them out the ground. I mean, were you to wrap your hands around those bushes, they'd eventually be cut to pieces. And likewise, if you were to wrap your tongue around one of those grass stalks, you'd be bleeding fairly quickly. Your breakfast wouldn't taste nearly as good as his does. There you can hear the oxpeckers. So the oxpeckers will have been nesting in their tree holes for the night, cozy and warm, and now they've come out, and you can hear them calling. It's a psh, 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 and they've come to find the buffalo so that they can start finding some ticks to eat. Delicious to eat a tick in the morning if you're an oxpecker, not so much if you're a human being. We're just going to sit here a little bit longer. I really quite enjoyed the buffalo, and also because the lions were calling not too far south of here, and they may call again. There are the oxpeckers. It's quite nice when you're on a morning like this, when your host is also a hot water bottle. I'm sure the oxpeckers are flattening their bellies against the warmth of the buffalo skin. Beautiful shot of one here, if you can get it. Look at that fellow. Hundreds of oxpeckers are now filling the skies and going to land on all of the buffalo and impala and kudu and rhino and other animals that frequent the area, but not on elephants for some reason. We're not sure why. We've just got Brent hollering at me on the radio. I'm just going to excuse myself briefly. Go ahead, Brent. Go ahead, Brent. You can see where the oxpeckers have taken the hair off under his eyes, probably because the ticks like to go towards any sort of opening, be it an eye, a bottom, a nose. So they'll congregate under the eyes or in the soft parts of the body, and that's where the oxpeckers have now cleaned off that flesh. Or not flesh, they've cleaned off the hair. Right. Okay, I think we're going to turn around now, gently, and head slowly into the rising sun. Oh, beautiful. Let's just get you a picture of that. Scott is behind us. We have some magnificent lights of which Van Gogh have delighted in. Look at that sun. So while we're enjoying the rising sun, we're going to cross over to Brent. Brent is dressed in his grandfather's down jacket, so he has swelled to twice the size that he was yesterday. Let's see what he's finding, and we're going to carry on down the road here. Enjoy.
Morning everyone, my name's Brent. I got full on camera from a very cold Djuma private game reserve this morning. It's about 6 degrees, which is 47 Fahrenheit, and for me that's about as close to freezing as I like to get. As you can see, I'm very much wrapped up. I've even got a hot water bottle. I really don't like being cold, but good news is we've got some leopard tracks that we've been following here. We're around Impala Plains on the border of Djuma and Arathusa, just trying to figure out which way the leopard is going at the moment. I'm going to go a little bit further down the road, but there's been a lot of tracks up and down, so it's quite difficult to see But the most fresh tracks I have are heading sort of west down this long road, but there's been tracks on and off. There's also been tracks of a male leopard here, but those look like they're a bit earlier in the day. For those of you who might be joining us for the first time, we are on a very chilly live African safari, and we move between Djuma and Arathusa Private Game Reserve, and at the moment we are tracking a female leopard. In this area, for those regular viewers, more than likely shadow. But it is a beautifully still morning. Those tracks we had just now, there we go, she's come this way again, are very nice and fresh. Let's keep checking. So I think they cross, there we go, across to the other side of the road. Just trying to make sure which way she goes, whether she stays or crosses into Djuma or goes into Arathusa. Got her tracks here again. See if I can get Phil to show them to you. I think it's shadow and cut now, just judging from the two sets of tracks I can see. Sindile. So if we have a look at those ones right on the edge of the road there, you can see she's been walking there, and then there's a second set in the middle of the road. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to show you from here, which is a similar size, but it does look a little bigger possibly. So we're on the right track. Now there's a single set of tracks heading back the opposite direction, so it is possible that she might have made a kill somewhere and then has gone back to fetch Sindile, the young male who's about 8 months old, and taken him back there. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we are on the trail. Yeah, walking that side. Okay. Come on, leopards. So those lion tracks Scotty followed yesterday, those are the ones that crossed. Still got... We don't have her tracks now. Let's have a quick look on the side. Yeah, they're still there, very faint, but I've still got them. So it is a beautiful morning. I think it's going to be a stunning day. Not a breath of wind at the moment, which we're quite thankful for, being quite chilly. And let me just, for those of you who might be new, apart from, oh, I have just got hyena tracks now. Let me just make sure she's not underneath the hyena tracks. We are interactive, so you can ask us questions about what we're doing, and you can do this via email, and the email address is questions@WildEarthTV, or you can use the hashtag SafariLive if you're on Twitter. So tracks are still there, so we're going to keep following and see what's going on. There are quite a lot of hyena tracks as well. Her tracks look like they're a bit earlier in the day, in the evening. Looks like distinctly two hyenas that have been walking here as well. One has been running. and I just, sometimes when the leopards walk up a harder part of the road, because they're so light, the tracks are a little bit more difficult to see, but I can't see any tracks at the moment, so I'm just going to go very slowly. I'm going to check to this dip here, and if we don't find any tracks there, then I'll go back extra carefully and check back towards where I had the last track. Also, while we're going very slowly like this, we're listening to see if anything might spot her for alarm calls. So, we have no tracks here. I'm going to go back to check whether she's gone north or south from the road. Just find a decent spot to make my turn. Oh, what was that I just spotted? That's the hyenas again. The sun's just above the horizon now. So the last place we had the tracks was on top of this ridge up here. And we got a little bit quicker get back there. I'm going to jump off the vehicle, have a quick look around the front of the vehicle to see if I can see which way she's crossed. Julie from Milwaukee, welcome on a sunrise safari. Julie from Milwaukee says, were there lions calling at the start of drive? She thinks she could hear some. Julie, I didn't hear, but it's quite possible. I'm quite a long way away from where the Djuma camp is at the moment. I'm on our western boundary, and that is closer to the eastern section of the reserve. But I've got those leopard tracks crossing the road here. I saw them. There they are. So I'm just gonna stop here for a second, and you can have a look there, and they're between the hyena tracks. So that's what makes it a bit difficult. Now I've got to sort of unwrap myself from hot water bottles and blankets and what. Let me just. One thing about these gloves, it does make using the fingers a little bit more difficult, but the warmth they provide is a definite worthwhile loss of dexterity for me. Okay, so I'm just going to have a quick walk where you guys can see where they went. You can see there's the leopard track. Can you see these ones? Or do you want me to go a bit further?
Show it to me.
So there's the leopard track. There, smaller, you can see the three little lobes, and there's the hyena. So, and you can see the hyena tracks a bit sharper, so from a bit earlier, later, so more fresh than the leopard. But the second set of leopard tracks is out on the other side of the road. Just going to see, this is where I think they left the road. So I'll be back shortly. So she bamboozled me there for a second. What happened is she's actually still on the road, but she's walked on this very hard, compacted on the side of the road. So when we're driving, it's a little bit too fast to see the tracks. They're just such faint little scratches. But we're back on them now. Now I need to try get back into my bubble. Put my ears back in. And you'll notice with great delight that R2D2 has left us. We no longer have to now it's just in my ear. It's far more pleasant. So for those who might be a bit new, R2D2 was our new radio system, and they hadn't managed to find a way to put it in our ear yet. And every time someone spoke or you pushed a button, because it was a digital system, it would make a lot of noises that sounded like R2D2 from Star Wars. Andrew is the one who named it R2D2. So we're going to keep on these tracks, and we're going to cross across to Commander Bond to see what he's been up to for the last little while, and we'll be back with you a little later, and hopefully we'll have found one or two leopards, or a lion, or even an impala. But over to Commander Bond.
Welcome back everyone to Djuma, where Scott and I are basking like two dwarf mongoose, well actually more like one dwarf mongoose and a white-tailed mongoose in the sun. It's the most beautifully crisp sunrise. I believe Brent has been showing you some crisp tracks, so there's a lot of crispness about the morning. We have come onto the eastern boundary, and there were no lion tracks coming across from the south. So we're going to continue up here towards Buffels Hook Waterhole and see what we can find there. It's the most beautiful morning. So despite the cold, I'm feeling very inspired by the natural wonder of the wilderness around us. Remember that we're sitting in 3.5 million hectares of contiguous wildlife area. That's bigger than, it's twice the size of Lebanon. It's about a third bigger than Israel and Wales. There's a small country in Africa called Djibouti, which wouldn't even fit into this bottom half. So it's a massive part of the world. Giant wilderness. As I was saying yesterday, a lot of this land we have for wildlife mainly because farmers and cattle herders and all sorts of people and miners have all tried their hand at making it work in a commercial way. But there's some elephants up ahead on the road. I'm just going to speed up a little bit, coming into Djuma, which is exciting. So most of this land has not been tried for various commercial things, and that's why we have it for wildlife, because it's turned out to be hopeless for commercial use, which is wonderful for us. And one elephant walking across the road there. There we go, a little baby in front. Our faces are now turning frostbite if we drive at this speed. There we go. that's a beautiful morning sight. Little breeding herd of elephants feeding along this fire break where it's a bit clearer, easier to move, possibly a bit warmer in the sun. But like I say, oh, there's some tiny little ones there. I'm going to stop here a little while, just while they're getting used to us. I think this is the same herd that we had in this area the other day. The two young cows spending more time away, those are the two in front of us, and then the little babies staying with their mothers in front. All right, we're going to sneak forward slowly, just watching their behavior carefully. It's just so pleasant to be with elephants when they're unaffected by our presence. So I want to be as slow and careful as possible so that they feel as comfortable as possible. The little ones giving us the eye up front. Little one up front is running around, sort of playful, warming up. So she's a little bit awkward around us. So I'm just going to stop and let her get used to us. There we go. She's watching us quite carefully. Now she's relaxed. She seems to be lactating as well. I'm not sure which one of these would be her baby, but there are a few little ones off to the right of your picture now in the quite thick bush. The sounds of the dawn are just fantastic. Got birds calling all over, drongos, prombecks, firefinches, doves. And the slow rustle of the vegetation as the elephants move through. You can hear them snapping off bits of grass and rustling through the trees as we move. I'm going to sneak forward a bit more. There's a couple of others further forward that are a bit more in the light. It's quite a big herd. In fact, it's not the same one we saw 2 days ago. Quite a few up front of us. And again, we're just going to approach very slowly and let them get used to us. The last thing we want is for them to feel uncomfortable. I always feel very sad when they don't feel comfortable with us. I'm just going to stop here. So one or two of them have stopped feeding now, just to listen to what we want and watch us. And now they've started again. What I don't want to do is drive a wedge between them. So we could have driven right up, close, and they may not have reacted, but now they're still in visual and easy contact with each other, and we're not affecting them. Seems to be suckling, the little one there. You can see just bigger than her mother's belly, so probably about 14 to 18 months old. Dee on Twitter, thank you for your dawn question. It's a good one. How long do baby elephants take to get used to the vehicles? The answer is that they will take their cues almost entirely from the adults. So if the adults are relaxed, then the babies will tend to be relaxed. When they're little and they're sort of 2 and 3 years old, it's very funny. Sometimes they try their luck with us and they charge the vehicles and sort of almost play with them. But it's not in any way a sort of aggressive behavior. What they're doing is just sort of being boisterous youngsters. So they will take their cue from the adults, especially from the matriarch. If she's okay, just about everyone will be okay. I'll sneak a little bit further forward. There's one breaking a tree, I'm sure you can hear. Oh no, I wish you could feel the sun. It's just come onto our faces. It's starting to warm us up. Just going to see if I can get to a position where you can see looks like a big cow in front breaking some grass. I think I'm going to make it too much of an effect, so we're going to stop here for a little while. Look at the little one coming, that tiny little thing. And you can see the hair on his head, he's still so small. So that little one's probably just under a year old. And as you can see, when he runs, he or she runs, curls the trunk up because it's totally uncoordinated at this stage of life. I think this is the old matriarch behind here. I'll get a picture of her now. What she's doing, there's no question that she is watching us. She wants to know what we're up to. You can see how her left ear is ceased to be as upright as it might be, and it's really been torn by thorns and a life hard lived. And so I think she's probably the oldest. She's not the biggest cow though. There's one up front that seems to be a lot larger. But also you can see she's probably pregnant from the size of her belly there. That protuberance on the side of her. There we go. She's okay. She's not entirely happy. She's not exactly happy with us. I'm just going to let her carry on like she is for now. Keep my eye on her. But I think if we keep quiet, she should be okay. So I'm not going to say anything for the next little while. Unlikely that she's pregnant with a little one like that, but it's not impossible. Isn't that just fantastic to see? I have seen this herd before, but a long way from here. And I recognize that little one by he's got a sort of unusually creased skin, and he does like to give the vehicles a bit of a rev when he comes past. Isn't that sweet? Now she's definitely an old cow, and I wonder if she hasn't had some experience in sort of the distant past where, she would have been part of the Kruger elephant population that was subjected to the culling before 1996. So she will retain some of that memory, but the more and more time she spends with us, the less and less she'll feel threatened by us. There. Now, the other day I mentioned how they love those teak trees and how they'll feed them through the molars and pull the bark off or strip the bark, and that's exactly what that cow's doing there. I'm just going to sneak a little bit forward now. We've got some others a bit closer to the road. I really don't want to go herring into the bush after them because they've been so confiding to us. So we're just going to sneak forward. That cow who we had on the road and who was watching us quite carefully there is still listening very carefully to what we're doing. Two up front in front of us. Tuskless. There's a tuskless cow here. I'm just going to stop here. The noise of the vehicle is making them a little bit uneasy. And the cow in front of us seems to be there, behind the bush that Scott's focusing on. Seems to be tuskless. That's very interesting. That can be genetic. They could have broken off, but the fact that there isn't even a stump there tells me that she never had tusks. And obviously one of the things you can't perceive from where you're sitting now, or maybe you can, is the sort of the atmosphere of the sighting, where there's a slight tension in the air from this cow. She's very clearly still watching us quite carefully, wants to know what we're about, wants to make sure that we're not a threat. So she's sort of feeding and sort of listening. Elephants will often pretend to feed if they're uneasy, a bit like us when we kind of pretend to have a drink or drink out of an empty glass when we're in an awkward social situation. Judy in Cave Creek, which I think is in Arizona, welcome and thank you for your question. You want to know if the babies are ever in danger from the bulls during the mating season. There are two aspects to this question. The first is that there's no set mating or breeding season. They'll breed throughout the year, elephants, just depending on when the cows come into estrus. And the bulls are generally pretty placid with the calves. I've certainly not read of or heard of any incidences where a bull has created any situation of infanticide. So I think that may have quite a lot to do with how protective the cows are, but also just with the fact that it doesn't seem to confer any advantage on the bulls. So they will generally be pretty tolerant of the youngsters. You can see her feeding on the bark now, and as it gets drier and drier, so the elephants will start to eat on the bark of the trees. They'll pull the cambium layer off. Scott, should we go back a little and just see if we can't see some of the others?
Good idea.
We're just going to go back a little bit. Yeah, that tuskless cow is very upset about something in her life. Not sure what. Sometimes the tuskless animals can be a little bit more easily threatened or easily upset. A bit like just because they feel a little bit more vulnerable. This tuskless cow is very unhappy. She's followed us all the way down the road, but now she's calming again. And she was rumbling as she came down. But everybody else is absolutely fine with us. In fact, that elephant that Scott's filming has just reacted to the cow, to the tuskless cow. She wasn't reacting to us at all. Sort of turned in anger towards the much bigger tuskless cow. I must tell you, to say tuskless in this temperature is not easy. Look how beautifully they just disappear into the bush. Curious one, you have asked a question. You've asked if all the tusked elephants are killed, and I'm assuming you mean hunted. So for the big ivory, will evolution not favor the tuskless cows? And the answer in a very basic sense is yes, it would. If having a tusk confers a disadvantage on you because you're more likely to be shot by some bloodthirsty hunter, then absolutely having no tusks will confer an advantage on you. And if having no tusks is part of your genetic makeup, then you will be more successful in at leaving offspring than a tusked animal. So that's quite a good question. It's quite a nice example. Certainly the ivory, or the size of the ivory in this area, apparently is much smaller than it was sort of 120 years ago, when the Kruger Park was first promulgated. That was the first, I think, instance of the Sabi Game Reserve was promulgated in 1898. And at that time, if I'm not mistaken, there were only 8 elephants left in this area. Now, I mean, the counts would have been very, very inaccurate at that time, but they certainly weren't the same number that they are now. And that's because they'd been hunted out for their ivory. And certainly you don't find enormous ivory in the Kruger Park now, but on a very odd occasion. I think we're going to leave these elephants just disappearing quietly into the bush. I don't want to follow them in there. You can hear those Franklin's alarm calling. That may be because the elephants disturbed them. Right, so that was wonderful, wasn't it? A really nice, peaceful, glorious way to start the morning, especially as we were able to stand still in the sun, which has made Scott and I infinitely more cheerful. And we're going to carry on up here towards Buffelshoek Waterhole and see what's over there. And then I think Brent is hot on the trail of something or other, and we'll cross to him eventually. We don't want to cross to him just yet, because I'm sure the camera is shaking horribly, and we don't want you nauseous on Dawn Game Drive. Cold air has made for particularly sort of sharp lines in the clouds and piercing blue in the sky. Looks like these elephants have fed all the way down the road here. They've come along this clearing. It's what we call a fire break, so the bush has been cleared off the sides of the roads, and it's quite nice for them to move in an area like this. Just gonna, Scott, I'm just gonna go and fetch that little piece of teak there. Stand by one, everybody. Coming back now. Right, so this is a piece of round leaf teak or Pterocarpus rotundifolius. Now the elephant has got a molar, an adult bull elephant's molar is about that big, and it sits in the back of the mouth, obviously. Where else would it be? And what they do is they pull these stalks out of the ground like this, and then they bite them, and they feed them through the mouth. And they come out cleaned of the bark. And that bark, I mean, this has recently been done, it's still wet. That bark produces the nutrition that they want. And we're just going to give this a little taste to see if it's as delicious as the elephants say it is. It's better than the knobthorn, less tannin than the knobthorn. I probably wouldn't substitute it for my bacon and eggs. But definitely you can taste a sort of a sugary, mild vitamin taste. So there's probably some good nutrition in there. And like I have said before, these bushes will become enormous trees from which you can make furniture in the absence of elephants. But where there are elephants around, they maintain them at this sort of low height, where the stalks are perfect for them to pick out and chew through like I've just showed you. Just climb in and recover myself with this blanket. Ah, that's very nice. Right, on we go. I better plug myself in. termite mound here. I was hoping for a bit of heat coming out of it. You can warm your hands quite nicely on the end of a termite mound. Beautiful view of the mountains there. Just going to come back a little bit. Scott can get a good picture. So
That's perfect.
You must shout if you get sick of me continually referring to the mountains, but those are just beautiful there. The haze below the mountains there comes from, there are 9 million people living on the borders of the Kruger National Park in rural villages. I mean, that sounds like a lot, but, the Kruger Park is an enormous expanse of land, so it's not that much. But they're living in rural villages where heating largely comes from wood fires or coal, and that's that haze that you can see at the base of the mountains. Just stunning. A gentle breeze in the air, pretty chilly one. But that's why the air is so crisp and perfect this morning. Right, we'll carry on a little. No leopard or lion tracks this morning on these roads. It's always good to check the boundaries, especially when we've had the dogs around. Because they can cover such huge distances, and they may have crossed in and out of the reserve 3 or 4 times last night, but we're not sure. I'll take the next road, not this one. So we're now at pretty much the northeast corner of Djuma, and we're driving through a little field here of those Pterocarpus rotundifolius trees, or the roundleaf teak, where the elephants have maintained them in this sort of dwarf state, if you like. Almost like they're farming themselves a source of winter food. Scott, is that tire still hard?
No, that's a problem.
Okay. All right, I thought the vehicle felt a bit funny. We've burst a tire, so I think we're going to have to leave you. If we can, and try and change the tire. While we wait for Brent to become available, we'll just try and find something interesting to talk about where we are sitting now. What can we find? I'm going to try and pick some fawns. Stand by. I'll be back shortly. I'm not copying that.
We could do a crunchy apple leaf.
Crunchy apple leaf we could do. Where's an apple leaf?
To the left.
To the left? Ah, there we go. This one. I'm not very tall, you see. I think I've been driving on that tire for some time, I'm afraid. So this is the apple leaf tree, or the rain tree, Phalaenoptera violacea. And if you listen carefully, I'm going to crunch it right into the microphone. You'll hear why it's called the apple leaf. Huh? Now apparently that's supposed to sound a bit like crunching into a bright green Granny Smith apple. It doesn't taste like a Granny Smith apple. I don't think it sounds like that either. But, you know, we have to come up with names. The more interesting name is actually the rain tree. And it's called the rain tree not because it is a predicator of rain, but because in it, the larvae of an insect called a scale insect lives. And what the insect does, it's not a scale insect, I've lost it for a moment, but it'll come back to me. What this animal does is it drills into the sap of the branch here, of these young branches, and drinks it. And because there's so much water in it, it's got to filter out a lot of water in order to get the nutrition that it needs. And it forms this sort of foamy nest around it. And that foamy nest is continually being renewed, and so bits of it keep dropping off and dropping off and dropping off onto the ground. And they particularly like this tree, and that's why it's called the rain tree. Which is quite interesting. Right, around we go. See what else we can find in this vicinity. Scott, will you keep me posted on the radio?
I'm not hearing it too well, okay, but I'll try my best. Ooh.
Ooh. Not sure if you can hear that. That's kudu alarm calling. It would be lovely to drive there. Unfortunately, that's not possible. Beginning to wonder if my friend Brent is still around. So this is the thorn of Acacia exuvialis, or the flaky thorn, and inside it is a very nutritious pith that insects like this slender ant like to eat. So what they do is they drill in here and they lay their eggs, and then the larva will grow up eating this pith. And if they have been drilled into, they swell. The ant injects some form of hormone into the plant, and the thorns swell and create more of the pith, and that's what the larva eats. Naturally, on this one, there isn't anything. I will, for the sake of your edification, sacrifice my taste buds further to the thorns, and tell you that a slender ant doesn't really have a particularly sophisticated palate, I don't think. It'd probably be best for you to cross to Brent now, but I'm not sure why that isn't happening. We are going to find something
maybe just
else.
Double check with Nikki, because like I said, I'm not sharing.
We might not be live. FC, do you copy?
I do copy. Do you copy me?
Yeah, I've had to pull you out of the... Are we live?
Yes, you are, but we need a...
Okay, we are live. That's good to know. Nice to have you with us We're experiencing a little few technological difficulties here. That is not surprising. We are in the deep bush, 3.5 million hectares, not a lot of technical stores in the area, and so I'm sure Eugene is rushing around frantically trying to fix whatever the problem is. I'm not hearing a great deal at the moment. I'm going to, will you excuse me, I'm going to pull out you're going to have to hear the microphone, I'm afraid, because we're not hearing otherwise.
Brent, we need to link to Brent.
Right, there we go. We're going to link to Brent now. I think he's chasing a whole lot of leopards, which is very exciting, and so we're going to go across to him immediately.
Welcome back, guys. As I said, we were tracking Shadow and a cub earlier, and Shadow's tracks veered off, heading more west and out of our Traverse area, and we passed another vehicle from Arathusa, and he said there were lion tracks crossing into our side, so I went quickly to look at the lion tracks, and then we hadn't even gone 5 minutes, and Sean called me back and said, oh no, with Shadow's cubs just popped up on the road behind you. So here we are, we're with Sindile, that 8-month-old, about 8.5 now, month-old male leopard cub, and Shadow is his mother. For those of you who are new viewers, you are live on an African safari, sitting on the back of my game drive vehicle, looking at an 8-month-old leopard cub that is named Sindile. So quite often his mother will leave him and then in an area while she goes off to hunt, because at this age he can be quite a hindrance on the hunts and chase away the animals that she's trying to catch. He will do quite a lot of little hunts by himself while he's away from his mother. Squirrels and dwarf mongoose and maybe francolin or guinea fowl, and all that's honing his hunting skills for when he becomes independent. Isn't that wonderful? Such beautiful morning light sitting on top of the termite mound. So that trick is just me taking a few pictures. Looks like a very, very comfortable young leopard, the way he's lying at the moment. So while he's away from his mother, he will adventure at this age, not too far from where he's been left, but he definitely will adventure up to a kilometer away from where he was originally left, but will normally move back into that area. But from the tracks we found this morning, I would say he was only left in this area either last night or early this morning. So I'm just trying to listen carefully, see if there's anything else around, possibly if his mother was moving back into the area, but I don't think so. I think she's gone off hunting. We had her tracks probably about 500 meters from here, heading sort of northwest. And I say it's quite nice, hey Phil, to stop and actually look at something so we're not freezing and moving.
Lovely. You can throw it around.
You can see that white tip to the tail there. And that is a following mechanism in leopards. They're able to, especially with female leopards, so the youngsters are able to follow the mother through thick bush. It stands out incredibly because if you're directly behind a leopard, the base on the bottom of that is so much whiter than the rest, and it doesn't have those wonderful rosettes to break up the line. He's smelling something. And here a grey go-away bird, I think has just spotted him on top of that termite mound. Tell him to go away, go away. Wonderful morning light on his face. So, as I said, if you are new, we are live and we are interactive, so you are able to ask us questions about what we're seeing in the bush, and you can do that by emailing us at questions@wildearth.tv, or you can just use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Morning, Timmy, Carolyn and Lucy. They have a question for us. When I was off the vehicle tracking, they noticed that I draw a line behind the track with my boot in the sand, and there's a reason for this. It's an old habit from when I've been tracking with trackers, and when you're both walking and looking for tracks, it's just to let the other person know where the track is. So if you lose a track and you're trying to figure out where it is, you just sort of draw a line with your foot below the last track, and then you do that, and that's to make sure that the other person you're working with knows that you're still on the tracks and you haven't lost the tracks, so they don't have to start checking somewhere else. Quite often if you work tracking as a pair, two of you will check different paths or different areas, so, and quite often if you notice, leopard and lion will meander a bit across the roads and that, so that the tracks will move from side to side. And so I just mark the last track with my foot, and that is the area where she split from the track split between the cub and the adult, between Sindile and Shadow carried on west, and his tracks stayed in that area. So we would have been coming back here later to have a look as well, because we know he would have been left in this area more or less. So I hope that explains my strange habit of drawing lines in the sand.
Would like the hybrids, do the cats lengthen in winter? Oh, that's David in Michigan, sorry. David in Michigan, do cats lengthen in winter?
Morning, David from Michigan. Welcome on the Sunrise Safari. David would like to know, do the cat's fur lengthen in winter? David, it'll get a little bit thicker, but nothing noticeable in the cold months. And I mean, as I say, our cold months here are not really cold like the Northern Hemisphere. Or the Arctic and Antarctic. I think it's very seldom we'll even get frost. This morning is particularly cold at about, 5 or 6 degrees Celsius, 47 Fahrenheit. So it doesn't often get too much colder than that. It's normally a little bit warmer. So there isn't a real need, like in the northern climes, for a noticeable thickening of the cat's fur in this area. So he's probably, since he's been left, he's done a little bit of exploring around the area. He might do some more exploring because it is a cool morning, but he's probably been exploring for a while, and now he's resting on the termite mound. Hi Rameh, welcome on the Sunrise Safari. Rameh would like to know, were there lions nearby? Well, the tracks we had, Rameh, were probably about 800-900 meters to the north of us, and those tracks cross straight through the top of Djuma and into Buffelshoek, so relatively close by, but not right here. He does seem to have quite an attitude to him, this young male, almost nonchalant. Very beautiful young boy. Hi, Anna Marie, who's tweeting us this morning. Anna Marie says it seems that Shadow spends quite a lot of time away from Sindile. Not more than other leopard females would from their cubs at this age. I mean, he's big enough that he can look after himself, and he's adept at climbing trees and stuff. If another predator had to come into the area, it looks like he's going to get moving. Oh, a little stretch, and a little yawn. It's a big stretch coming. So Anna-Marie, I think he might just be moving around to catch more of the sun on the other side of the termite mound and do a bit of grooming. Anna-Marie, we'll discuss how long female leopards tend to stay away from their offspring in a second. I'm just going to reposition so we can get a slightly better view. Oh, that is quite nice. Let's just look at him while he's popping his head up over there. But we'll see if we can get around to see grooming. So, a lot of you guys are asking for a closer zoom. Unfortunately, we were at max zoom there. We'd obviously, with the young leopard and not being with his mother, we're not going to push how close we go too much. But we will try to get you a little bit closer now, folks. That's a big stump we just knocked there. Morning, Steve. Thanks very much. I was tracking them for a long time this morning. Yeah, they came from all the way down near Zebra Drive.
Oh, yeah.
Both of their tracks were down the road.
Their mother went down on Fabric.
And then onto Subamili. I know, I saw.
Are you moving on?
No, I'm just trying to reposition quickly.
Come and pass.
Okay, are you sure?
I'm in a good distance there.
Okay, perfect. Thanks very much. Yes, we can turn and move in very small places. Yeah, I'll go around the other side of that Sisyphus. Thanks, Sips. Sorry guys, just gonna sneak past you. Is that okay? There we go. So we've just moved around so we can see where he is. So Anne-Marie, to discuss what you were asking about earlier, you said Shadow seems to spend a lot of time away from Sindile. That is not unusual for a leopard with a cub of this age. Oh, Sharon, I heard something in the grass. I think it's a Franklin scurrying around in the leaf litter. Oh, it's a tired kitty. But Anna-Marie, so if at this age he can survive quite a few days, 5 days, 6 days without food, and she has to provide, so having him around or being around him a lot of the time would be very difficult for her to hunt and provide, so she has to leave him alone, and this is to ensure she is able to hunt. He is a very big distraction and probably gets very excited when there's something to chase and hunt, and he'll often make a hash of those hunts. And you can see, even though he's sleeping like that now, watch his ears, he's still listening to what's going on, and hopefully he would hear before another predator would approach. Morning, Siberia, one of our zoomies. Siberia would like to know, how does the mother leopard tell the cub to stay without the cub following? Well, she'll hiss and growl and get a little bit aggressive with it, and that's how she'll tell it to stay. And when she comes into an area to find it again, she will chuff and give a low contact call, which is the contact call is a very sort of ow, ow. I don't want to do it too loud, it might confuse him. Ow, 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 like that. Or the chuffing, which is even softer. What I'll do is when we do leave this guy, because there are quite a few vehicles who are making their way into the area, so we are going to have to give some of the other vehicles a chance just now, but once we move out, I will do that leopard contact call, my bad attempt at it, and also the chuffing. I don't want to do it while we're this close, it might confuse the young male. Morning, Jean from Los Angeles. Jean was wondering whether this leopard was sitting on a termite mound, and does that termite mound put out heat? He is sitting on a termite mound. I don't think this is an active termite mound, so I don't think there's any heat coming up from it. You see all the grass, and I just think he's using it because it's a slightly elevated position, which gives him a better view if there is another predator or anything coming in his direction. So guys, just got to use the Game Drive channel for a second. How many stations are standing by for this position of Shadows Montan? thanks very much. Oh, good news. It doesn't look like there are any vehicles standing by. There were a bit earlier, but now there are none, so we can sit here for quite a while. Even though he's not doing anything, it's wonderful to be able to sit this close to a young male leopard. Hi, Amanda from Pittsburgh. Go the Penguins. Welcome on Sunrise Safari, Amanda. Amanda would like to know what age a leopard cub stops feeding off its mother. Now, I'm assuming, Amanda, you mean when he stops taking kills from his mother. Well, Amanda, it varies depending on individual leopards and also on the sex of the leopards. Females generally become independent from their mothers at a much younger age. I've seen females come independent at 9-10 months, so not much older than this leopard is at the moment. But males generally will hang around for about 18 months to 24 months. But normally the females will start pushing them off anything from around 15-16 months. But I have seen male leopards who've stayed with their mum for nearly 2.5 years. So it all depends on the individual, and it'll be interesting to see as we watch this guy and whether he's going to be one of the ones who really doesn't want to leave his mommy, a real mommy's boy, or one of the ones that becomes independent quite quickly. He's just going to be sitting there patiently waiting for his mother to return.